Today I've arrived at Burra Castle in Norfolk. Although strictly speaking it's not a castle, it's actually a Roman era fort, in fact from the 3rd century AD. Here is an amazing history that first gave light from the year 200 AD, when Roman England increasingly became victim of attack from the Saxons, Frisians and Angles. In order to combat this menace on the beaches, it was decided to build shore forts to meet the invaders on landing, and for this purpose 11 such forts were built from Hampshire to Norfolk, with nearby Caister being one of the earliest. Burra came afterwards and was paired with Caister to provide protection in the now long gone Waveney estuary, and long before it was drained and subsequently dug for peat by medieval peasants to create today what is known as the Broadlands. Caister was then an island, whereas Burra was connected by a peninsula to the mainland. And for many years it was believed that Burra was known as Garryanum, although it's now believed that both Caister and Burra were described as one, and both were two halves to a whole in providing an effective defence in the locality. Caister Fort, unlike Burra, lost its buildings and defensive walls many centuries ago, and is now a series of ground-level ruins where other forts have disappeared completely. The forts were known as Saxon shore forts, although it has to be said the Saxons played no part in their construction, in fact quite the contrary. Burra is possibly the best preserved of all the forts and was garrisoned by a regiment of cavalry, totaling around 500 men with horses. These warriors were expert horsemen and mostly recruited from captured enemies, and as such they had come from many parts of the Roman Empire. And from this fort they were able to provide a rapid reaction force to protect both forts should they be required to do so. And certainly there must have been a garrison of soldiers there to maintain security, but unfortunately there's no records appertaining to that. But we know of this information through a 5th century book entitled, rather nobly, the Notitia Dignitatum, or List of Offices. And we also know from that that the Saxon shore forts were administered by the office of the Count of the Saxon Shore. Originally, the Count was responsible for a series of other such forts on the European coastline facing towards Britain. But later, the administration was left solely the responsibility of the English forts, which must have made life much less of a headache. And for many years, archaeologists were puzzled by the fact that on every Roman dig on these sites they could never find any stabling facilities. However, the answer came one day on another such excavation, when they realised that the horsemen actually slept in long upper floor buildings, whilst their charges were kept on the ground floor below them. Such were these men's dedication to their steeds. The fort itself measured 673 feet by 330 feet. The walls are more or less complete, although the shore-facing wall collapsed into the marsh many centuries ago. The walls have a core of mortared flint rubble and are dressed in flint and brick. They measure 9 foot 8 inches at the base and rise to more or less the original height of 15 feet. But although they have lost their parapets and platforms, they still visually remind any visitor of how powerful this fort must have been. At some point, bastions were added to the fort, Originally there were 10, but now only 6 remain, with 2 having collapsed centuries ago. And they reckon that each bastion weighs around 170 tons. Today, apart from the walls, there's very little evidence of the original buildings and where they once stood. Fortunately, other fort remains have been able to provide that detail in their layout. In this regard, Caister is probably a good example. Any visitor cannot fail to notice the series of vertical cracks in the stonework. And as most people probably think, they are not indicators of subsidence, but much more importantly, they show how this wall was built by section. And it's hard to imagine the life experienced by these soldiers, and especially from every corner of the empire. The English climate must have been very difficult for some, and I can imagine that many peered the horizon, not looking just for enemy vessels, but also news from home. In 367 AD, barbarians from Scotland, Ireland and Germany coordinated their attacks to launch raids on Roman Britain. Many towns were plundered throughout the province, and Britain fell into a state of anarchy. Many of the shore forts were overrun and many lives were lost. And it wasn't until 369 AD that a large force from Rome, led by military commander Theodosius, arrived in Britain to drive back the barbarians. And sadly, during this conflict, the Count himself was killed. 2 years later, further incursions occurred, but they were stopped by reinforcements drawn in from across the empire. And finally, peace was restored, albeit a temporary measure, because by 400 AD, the Romans started to wind down their forces in Britain, and many regiments were called back to Rome. And by 500 AD, according to coins discovered on site, all Roman presence at the fort had gone, and it came under the control of the Saxons. Not a great deal happened in the coming centuries. The Saxons later gave way to the Normans, and this is evidenced by Saxon burial ground, with a scarred landscape sharing the remnants of both Saxon and Norman era buildings. It was believed that the fort was used as an early Christian monastery by an Irish monk named St. Fursey around the year 630 AD. However, that notion was later dispelled in an excavation by Charles Green between 1958 and 1961. Although he found the remains of a wooden building, it may or may not have been used as a church. And today the site is owned by the Norfolk Archaeological Trust, with the walls being under the care of English Heritage. Apart from the fort, the area is of outstanding natural beauty, and crowned perhaps by the still functioning Burgh Arms windmill, which stands proudly guarding the opposite bank of the Breydon Water, which today is a site of outstanding natural beauty and of special scientific interest. And it's also very popular with tourists and day trippers, and particularly attracts many bird watchers. Another clue to the fort's past use, I believe, occurred in the 12th century when someone had the idea of building a motte and bailey castle within the corner of the fort here. In order to do that, they created a huge ramp and built their fortification on top, all of which of course disappeared centuries ago. But we're left today with this gentle slope and ramp. I would think by the size of it, it was probably used either perhaps as an observational platform, or on the wild side perhaps used as a lighthouse. Certainly when you examine the wall over this side here, as you can see, there's a huge section which is missing. This was removed in order to dig a medieval ditch to surround the fortifications. Of course the ditch has been filled in over the centuries, but the damage has been sown, and this is the spectacle that most visitors see today. But obviously in most people's minds it would appear to be an act of erosion, because certain sections of that particular wall have actually moved over. But these were stabilised many years ago and are perfectly safe today. But it is certainly a really fascinating piece of history that we can see here. Standing on this side of the fort is something quite unusual. You don't find it anywhere else. It's a series of holes at waist level which appear on face value to look like a medieval garderobe. in other words, a toilet. But they seem rather high on the ground to be an actual toilet. And so I carried out a number of researches through different sources and discovered, and again this is only theory, that these holes were created in order to build a lean-to structure. They were actual post holes. They would hold the structure in place. This may have been a small guardhouse used by the actual Romans, or as I originally thought, it had some connection to the castle that they built here. But nothing could be further from the truth. And so today we have these unusual aberrations in the stonework. So it gives you an idea. It must have been a huge structure which actually stood here at one time, which leant onto the actual wall. Really, really fascinating. But the best part I want to show you comes next. As you wander around the fort, most of the walls have worn with age, or they've had their rubble looted from the walls, leaving a very rough undercore. But there is still one section which gives you an indication as to how the fort was built and how they decorated it. And let me show you now. This section of walling is absolutely perfect. Well, almost. There are one or two pieces of damage that's caused the wall, but it gives you a pen picture of how they built it. As you can see, the lower course was flint, dressed flint. So although roughly cut, it's still quite effective. It looks quite attractive. On which they layered a course of Roman tile or brick, and then repeated the coursework again to the next level. The reason for that, quite simply, was to maintain the level. Once they reach a certain point, the stones, as you can imagine, are quite irregular, and so in order to keep it absolutely dead level, it was necessary to place this red brick intersection, which runs all the way through to the top. But the one thing that struck me, and it struck me very, very hard, is the fact that it resembles so much a medieval church wall. So one can imagine that the ideas that the Normans had for their churches, which they built all across Europe, came from inspiration given to them by the Romans. And here we have a perfect example of this. An interesting fact is that a majority of rubble that was taken from here was used to build the round tower on nearby St. Peter and St. Paul's Church. But one can imagine that the Normans received their inspiration from the work of the Romans. And as you can see here, although these aren't anywhere near as perfect as the flints that you find in late Norman churches, they are still significant and give you some idea of how this was created and decorated. I'm really impressed by what I'm actually seeing here, and it's just a tribute to Roman architecture and skill that this is still standing today. And talking about Normans, on one of the archaeological excavations here, they recovered a late Roman helmet, which, as you can see from this diagram, looks very, very similar to that worn by the Normans. And we know that the Normans had copied a great deal of detail from the Romans, and particularly on how they constructed their buildings. So it wouldn't be a far stretch to suggest that they may have even have copied their helmets from the original late Roman design. Of course, we'll never know. This is something which is lost to history. There's very little information that exists today that gives any indication on Roman lifestyles in this country over that turbulent period in the 3rd to 4th century AD. But the fact that these walls are still standing today is surely a credit to the skill of the Roman builders, and I am suitably impressed. Another feature of the site are these bastions, these round towers. Originally there were 10, I believe there's 6, and I believe 2 of them have since collapsed. And they were built as an afterthought. The fort had already been created, and then it was decided to build these round bastions. And the bastions aren't directly linked into the walls of the castle. So over the centuries you have this kind of separation here, which shows you how these were structured independently of each other. And yet, despite 1800 years, they're still here. But quite amazing. And you can imagine someone sat up there in the watchtower, overlooking the estuary, looking for enemy ships. Of course, we'll never know if there have been any battles here. I would suggest historically there must have been battles here, but there are certainly none that are recorded. But of course, one of the legends concerning a battle comes within the ghost stories of the castle, which I will share with you now. There are 4 ghost stories associated with Burra Castle. And the first one reads that once a year the sounds of clashing of swords and Romans and Saxon screaming can be heard in this area. Another ghost reportedly observed here during dark nights is a figure that allegedly plummets from the ramparts. The second legend concerns a black shuck who is known locally as Old Scarf and is named after Baron Rudolf Scarf, who was a 13th century villain who lived near the castle. Old Scarf haunts the castle grounds and the Yarmouth Road, and his single eye is glowing red and yellow. Apparently, ships that can haunt this area is said to be a fleet of galleons heading towards Burra Castle. The second is a battle between a pirate ship and 2 smaller vessels. And lastly, apparitions have been seen throughout the ruin. A young boy wearing rags, a Roman soldier, and a man who seems to be walking a dog have all been witnessed on multiple times. If we are fortunate to engage any of these legends on our investigation, it would certainly be something well worth sharing. Well, that's it as far as I can go here today. Thank you very much for joining me on this brief wander around this amazing site. But what is more exciting perhaps is the night investigation, which comes next. And I look forward to seeing you there. We've now arrived at Burra Castle, and because it's such a pleasant balmy evening, there are a lot of people here enjoying themselves. So if it takes us till midnight before we can film, we'll have to do it that way. There's about 50 people here at the moment, which is quite a lot for this time of the night. I think most people are here to take in the view as the sun dips down across the horizon. We're hoping to start as soon as it clears here with obviously a night shot video session, and then following it up with a ghost box session, because that tends to draw through the best results. I'm just going to quickly flash around and meet the rest of the group. We've got Pat here.
Hello.
What do you think then, Pat?
I think it's beautiful here, and we're really looking forward to tonight.
You definitely are, aren't
Oh
you?
yeah, can't wait.
Eddie?
No, it's a place, isn't it, hey? Don't get much better than Rome, and I'm excited. Yeah, case possible getting a Roman EVP would be sort of like, wow. But I'm very much surprised if we do. But we can still try.
We've waited quite a while. It's now 10:30 at night. There were a lot of people still lingering on the site to this late hour. It's hard to believe, okay, we're in the middle of summer, and it's just turning dark at this late hour. We're going to press on with the ghost box investigation first to see what kind of responses we get, and if we are successful, then we're going to move on. We're going to wander around the site with the night cam and see what we pick up. We're going to keep the night cam going during the ghost box session. We will alternate the cameras between myself, Eddie and Pat, so that you can see what's actually going on here. And depending on the responses we get, might draw us to other points of the site that we haven't yet explored. So it really is, for me, this is new territory, and perhaps the first time that I've actually carried out an investigation at night on a Roman site. So I'm really excited. Anyway, let's crack on.
Hi there, I'm Eddie, and we're going to have a go and see what we can get. If we have a Roman here, we'd love to hear from you. I know you can hear what I'm saying, because I know you can understand me. So what is your name? Gillet. So is your name Gillet?
I thought you said, yeah, it is.
Said something.
Or is it Philip? So your name is Gert. Do you work here at the castle? Were you here with the Normans? Or were you here with the Romans? If you are here with the Romans, could you say something in your native tongue? Italian? Latin? We would so love to hear that, if you could, please.
Maybe 10.
Were you here at the time of Edward I?
No.
Did you walk your dog? Did you live here at the fort?
A bit harder.
Were you a Norman?
Let Pat step in and see if she can draw anything through. So if you go for the next one.
Here we go, Pat.
And then we'll keep alternating it so we all get an equal shot at hopefully getting something.
Okay.
See what you can get, Pat.
Okay. Are there any Saxons here? Any spirits? Would like to speak to us? Leave us a message. Are there Romans here? Any Roman soldiers?
No.
Hello? Can you say hello back to me? Can you tell me your name? Do you want to see me?
The laser coverage goes split screen with another.
Can you give us your name, please? Do you want to say something, Chris?
Ask them if there's any ladies and ask
yeah.
if you could interact with anybody female who
Are
lived
there
here.
any children here?
Yeah.
A little boy?
You.
Can you hear something?
Who would step in?
It's definitely sort of cheeky.
I can hear a barking. A black shook.
Hi everybody. First of all, I do apologise in one sense for how people treat this site today. I've come here twice previously and I've seen people climbing on these walls and showing disrespect. I know that this is a Saxon burial area and I believe Romans were buried here too, and in their memory I do not wish to cause any disrespect. My name is Chris. I've come here in love, light and peace to make friendly and convivial contact with you, hopefully, and to try and elicit from you anything you wish to say across the ether from your world to ours. I know how difficult it is to communicate. I know that you find it very difficult turning sound into words, but if you could use the sound from this device.
I promise you.
Wind. Are there any yeoman farmers from the 18th century here? Anybody who used to bring their sheep into the confines of the fort to keep them out of the bad weather? Are any sheep herders here, shepherds, or anybody associated with the farming here? Would you like to speak? can hear somebody. I can hear somebody talking. Could you tell me who you are, please? I heard a man's voice then. It was definitely somebody trying to communicate with me. Could you try again, please? Yeah, there's somebody there now. Somebody is talking. What is your name, sir? I didn't hear that. I have to apologise. Oh, is there anybody here in spirit who passed on from this place? At Burra Castle?
No.
Could you tell me who you are, please? Can I speak to the gentleman who walks his dog here, who's been seen in spirit? Are you here, sir?
More money.
I can hear a man talking to me. What is your name, sir? I get, in my mind, I'm hearing the name Graham. Is there a Graham here? Is the ragged boy here, the little boy who's been seen? Whenever I hear the story of the ragged boy, the ghost boy who's been seen here, it upsets me, because to think that this person obviously died in childhood and died in poverty, and that's horrible.
I tell you what, Chris, one of the things I heard there, and I think when you asked about him, I heard the words, yeah, he never had any money. So it'd be interesting to see if that's right, but that's what I heard.
Eddie heard somebody say died because he didn't have, the boy died because he didn't have any money. Would that be correct? Anybody in spirit who wishes to communicate with me, could you say so now, please? I heard someone there. Anybody in spirit who wishes to communicate with me, could you say so now, please? Hello everybody, this is Chris from the Burra Castle site. It's quite late here. Of course it doesn't get dark here till around 10:15 p.m, so it's really dark now. We've been on the ghost box session for a little while. We've had some interesting and hopefully meaningful responses. One of the biggest problems of working from an open site, and especially one which is located directly on the coast, is the amount of wind that's blowing across the site as I speak to you at this moment. So it's very difficult working here, to be honest with you. I'll push my hat down a bit, the wind's getting to it. I can see many of you are flashing up there, which is great. I'm certainly enjoying this. We've had a ghost box session here. We've had 1 or 2 responses. We're on our second light battery, as you can see. That won't last long. But regardless, what we're going to do, we've had, as I say, 1 or 2 responses on the ghost box. I wouldn't say it's a kind of site that's reached out to you to communicate. We think we've had a communication from the ghost boy, the ragged boy who's been seen here. And Eddie picked up, what did you pick up, Eddie?
The name,
Gillett.
Gillett, yeah.
But what about the ghost boy?
I heard that say about not having any money.
He doesn't have any money.
Not any money.
Yeah. It's a really weird sight. It's very windy here tonight, and I dare say you can probably hear that at the moment. I'll pass you over to Eddie and then Pat. Eddie, if you come over here, because there's no light over there. Let's see if we can get you on camera.
Hi all, hope you're well out there in the Facebook world. We're having an interesting time here. Ooh, it looks spooky, don't I? Ah. But yeah, I mean, it's been really interesting. There's been definitely a few pickups. I'm at the spot earlier on. I had quite a strong spiritual headache near this spot, so it could be interesting to see whether we get any more coming through like that. But yeah, EVP wise, it's been really good, and I'm enjoying it. May have a little bit wander with my camera in a little while and see what other parts of the actual castle and see what happens.
The wind's getting very, very blissful. Yeah, the problem is the wind factor here tonight is atrocious. It hasn't been too bad earlier, but according to the weather forecast, the wind is supposed to be dropping, but it appears to be getting worse. I'll just bring you over, Pat, if you want to come over here. Okay, can anybody hear us? So we had a brief disconnect. Right, Pat, if you come over here and you're standing more in the light so that people can see you better. I'll stand to the side, you stay where you are.
Okay.
Right, there we go.
Hi everyone. We're having... my voice is going on. I'm coughing.
Pat's coughing, no pun intended.
It's been a very interesting evening so far. Apart from the wind, it's very windy. And
she keeps coughing, losing breath. Never mind. Anyway, we're going to carry on here for a bit. It's not practical to actually put the ghost box on. I will try and get you to watch what's happening. I'm not sure how long the batteries are going to run. So I will continue with the session. This is what we've got here at the moment. I hope you can see that because I've got no way of seeing it. I will continue with a few questions and see if we get any responses, after which we're going for a wander around the site. But for all intents and purposes, it hasn't been particularly brilliant on the ghost box here, to be honest. Okay, I'll communicate once more to the spirits of this site. We come here in love, light and peace. We mean you no harm or disrespect. We wish just purely to make friendly and peaceful contact with those that have passed from this wonderful site. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak to us? Can we speak to the ragged boy if he's here? Did you hear someone said something?
Yeah, something.
We're picking up in some little responses. Obviously, when I review the video later, in the comforts of my own computer room, I should be able to delineate exactly what's been said and share that with you. But it's very creepy here. It's certainly a creepy sight. As I was saying to all four of us, three of us. But it's hard for us to describe exactly what it's like here. It's very blustery. There are absolutely no lights. It's completely dark. It is absolutely black. It's one of the rare and few places we can go to where there is no interference from the modern world. So anyway, I'll continue my questions. Is the man and his dog? Apparently a man has been seen in spirit with his dog walking the site. Could you tell me who you are, please, sir?
Sound of confidence.
Sound of what? Confidence?
Sound of confidence.
Is the man with the dog? Are you here, sir? Can anyone tell me your name, please? My name is Chris, or Christopher if you wish to be more formal.
Eddie. Congratulations.
We've got Eddie or Edward, and we've got Pat or Patricia. Are there any ladies here who would like to reach out to us? Yes.
But it's a bloke.
But it was a man's voice. Perhaps he's transgender. Could be, yeah. Who is speaking to us, please? There is nothing to be feared, nothing to be worried for. Somebody was talking then. I could hear you then, sir, but you need to speak up a bit more, please.
Did you just say Eddie Mallet?
I thought it was, yeah, I thought I heard Eddie Mallet. We think, and we could be wrong of course, we think we heard the voice of someone say Eddie Mallet. If so, who is calling Eddie Mallet? Now, I would tell you now, none of us have given our full names.
No.
Eddie, you come over here, give me the camera, and hold the phone, and keep the phone where I'm standing now, at your face, and then continue the convo.
Did you just call my name just then?
Yes.
Is this a relative of mine? Are you a relative of mine?
Yes.
He
Yes.
said yes. It's a relative.
What is your name? Did you say what your name is?
They definitely said your name.
I'm sure they did.
Ask them if they're going to call your name. Why won't they talk to you?
Whereabouts do you live? Whereabouts did you live? Did you live at Harbourgate? I come from Harbourgate. The person who I think called my name out, are you still here?
Yes. I heard a faint scream, yes.
Is your name Marjorie?
Was that yes?
Not sure. Do you know? Is there anybody else here that that I would have known? That you were related to? Did you live at the mill? Did you live at Tunstall? Freethorpe? If you know who I am, I would probably know who you are. What is your name?
Melvin. I heard Melvin.
Yeah, it did sound like it. I can't think of a Melvin now.
Ask them in what context they know you.
Were you a relative of mine?
Where have you been?
How are you feeling, Pat? All right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a coffee fit.
How do you know me? Well, I feel certain that definitely said I didn't know that.
Well, you know, you were telling me about your ancestry, your background.
Uh-huh.
Could it be somebody, a relative you don't know about?
Possible. Quite possible.
Ask who they are, what context they know you.
That's what I have been
Yeah,
doing.
again, keep pushing it.
How is it you know me? Can you tell me how you know me?
I heard. Did you hear Eddie Mallet? I heard it.
That certainly sounds like it.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Be playing that back and hearing that on there.
Yeah, if it's there, that'd be brilliant. The trouble is, you see, sometimes you can listen to the ghost box and it doesn't translate onto recordings.
Are you showing this live? Is this live
Yeah,
on Facebook?
yeah.
Oh,
Come on. Are you still here? Bedtime.
I think, yeah, they said something like that, didn't they?
It's pretty dark.
Yeah,
there.
someone said
Some
something
said
about pyjamas, and
Yeah.
the other one said
Bedtime or
bedtime.
something.
Are there any relatives of Eddie here tonight? Could you speak, please? Is it Melvin?
How do you know me? Oh well.
I'll have one more bash if you. Do you want to stand here, Pat, and keep the camera to your chest? That's like you did. It's interesting.
I don't know where you are. Oh, there you are.
I'm always here somewhere. Well, that was really interesting because I quite clearly heard someone shout out Melvin. I mean, there are relatives that Eddie wouldn't know about, aren't there?
There are.
Yeah, so it could well be somebody that Eddie is not familiar with, but obviously they're familiar with him. So, unfortunately, we're not able to push that any further on that line of questioning. Are there any persons in spirit here connected to Pat, to Patricia? Could you say something? Anybody in spirit who knows Pat? Anybody from the old country, Ireland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Ireland,
Anybody from Ireland? We've certainly got a mixture of Irish blood here tonight, haven't we? Present company included. Probably Eddie's got some in the background. Most people
Yeah,
have.
most people have.
Yeah. Are there any people here connected to me who would like to say something?
Dead?
Oh, I thought it was like it.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
And who would that be?
Dead.
Dad?
Dad?
Is that you, Dad? Is that my father who's speaking to me? See, the other problem is you've also got to consider with PSB 7 devices or any communication device is that sometimes that you make contact with people who aren't really the people that you think they are. So that's something else that you've got to be a little bit more discerning about who you communicate with. It's getting very breezy here. You can probably hear it. Okay, we've literally run the gamut here tonight of all different types and shades of people we're trying to communicate with. We've had some interesting responses, of course, but the full value of which I won't know until I've actually reviewed the video and have been able to transcribe that to video to the documentary. So it's fairly interesting. What I'm proposing to do now is to, I'm going to have to finish on the phone, I'm afraid, on Facebook, because we need to wander off somewhere and wander around with the night cam to see whether or not we can pick up any anomalies in the darkness here. So that would be interesting too. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. I really do appreciate you tuning into our sojourn in the dark here. And I'll speak to you again very soon, and on that note I will say to you good night, and if I get anything incredible to report you will be the first to know. Until we speak again, good night. Okay, we've decided to conclude our PSB 7 ghost box investigation. We've had one or two meaningful responses. There's been a lot of garbage coming across there, but of course until I actually review the video I won't actually know exactly what's been said, and that's always going to be the case unfortunately with these devices. But it was particularly interesting, I found, that we definitely heard someone called Melvin and somebody call out Eddie's name. I think there's no doubt about that whatsoever. So whoever this person was may or may not be a relative of Eddie's. We will never know that for sure, unfortunately. But I think someone called out my name as Dad, sorry, called out to me as Dad. Whether or not it was my late father or not, I cannot say. But again, that was an interesting experience. Pat, you didn't seem to have much response tonight, did you?
No, I didn't.
You had one or two little bits, didn't you? Definitely.
Yeah, until you listen back.
Yeah, until it's reviewed, you don't actually know. So what we're going to do very shortly, we're going to have a very short break, and then we're going to have a wander around inside and outside the fort with a night cam, and let's see what we may or may not pick up on camera. So that should be interesting. Okay, let's crack on. Thank you. Okay, Pat, what we're going to do now, we're going to have a wander around the site, around the outside walls, and see if we can pick anything up.
Okay.
So I'll lead the way. Okay, folks, we have the night cam, obviously, as you can see. We're walking along one of the retaining walls from the fort. It's one that I mentioned, a section which collapsed many, many years ago, probably caused by the construction of the medieval fort that was here, the castle. And as you can see, the wall tapers down to a point and there's a gap, which I believe used to be one of the gate entrances before it was all destroyed. And if I grab that and I can show you the way. And we go through here. Wow, this is creepy, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'll wander up.
Yeah.
Well, wander up this little bit first. And as I said on the video, on the documentary section earlier, how the sections of the wall were created, and this is a perfect example of Roman engineering here. It's more or less complete. I'm going to wander up here. Look at this wall, it's absolutely beautiful. This is the preserved section, you see. Roman engineering at its best. And then we'll go up to one of the bastions on the corner. Forgive the wind on the camera, there's nothing I can do about that. Is the ragged boy here, please? Are you here, son? Right, this takes us across. We'll walk this way. It'll take us through the main entrance, and then we'll go back again. Okay, we're on the outside. We're on the main gate side of the fort. As you can see, this wall seems to go on forever, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really long.
So what do you think about the Romans?
Me?
Yeah, I mean, how do you think about them as people, as engineers?
Yeah, they were good engineers and they were a great army, but I like Boudica.
Boudica, yeah.
Boudica.
A woman who was scorned by the Romans when they raped her daughters.
So I'm not that.
And she wreaked terrible revenge upon the Roman forces. She sacked Colchester, sacked London.
Yeah.
And they had to send an army down from Chester. And they were eventually able to put down the rebellion. It must have been a huge battle, mustn't it? And look at this wall, this is a really good section. Look how high it is.
That is really high.
Look, you take it right to the top and then we can blow it down slowly, go for all the different coursework that I explained to you earlier, right down to the bottom. It's huge.
20 feet is that wall?
It's, yeah, between 9 and 15 feet. This is about 15. This would be the original height, except for it originally had, you know, the battlements you find on castles, but they've long gone.
It feels like it's longer now, because when we were on the inside it didn't look that long.
Yeah, you don't really get an appreciation of how big this place really is. It's huge, it's a massive Roman fort.
It's a amazing it's still here, isn't it? Probably
Oh, absolutely.
3rd century.
It's a real honour to be here.
It is.
Okay, we come up to the main entrance now. So we've got a gap here that we can walk through. And as people come onto the site, there's always a board here that tells people all about the actual site and what goes on here. As you can see here, inside the fort.
How it looked.
Yeah, this is the gateway we've just come through. That's how it would have looked originally. Well, again, it's only an academic guess. There's no evidence to say it was anything like how it's shaped there. But based upon other remnants they found, they obviously put 2 and 2 together to recreate the actual entrance.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Let's wander down here. I'll put the light back on again.
So there's 3 parts to the wall, isn't there? There's one wall missing or something, isn't it?
Yeah, the west wall would collapse into the Halton Marshes, which would have then been the sea. That would have been the beach at the bottom. This was literally built right on the edge of the coast. Now we're quite some miles from the actual sea, although the Breydon Water still feeds salt water into the basin there.
Yeah.
I've got the night cam pointing directly at the castle walls.
Oh, it's up there, is it?
Yeah, we're down the bottom there, yeah. Because when you walk into this, it's if you were disorientated, you wouldn't know if you was on the outside or the inside, would you? The only thing that tells you you're on the outside is the bastions.
Yeah. It's a different atmosphere than
Totally, yeah.
You know, at night when we came in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just like a family day out picnic place, wasn't it?
Now it's given over to the spirits.
Yeah, it's spookier, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure the grass wasn't this long when we came in.
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, it looks longer, doesn't it? Yeah. It grows as soon as it gets dark patch. Did you not know that?
But doesn't it look? There's no ticks
I know.
in the grass.
I know. It's strange, isn't it? Let's get a bit closer to the wall because it will be our focus here. Okay, we've rounded one corner.
Oh, that was good exercise for us.
Now we're back to where we started, but we're going to go down to the marshes now, Pat.
Oh, right, yeah.
Now the marshes are always creepy in any ghost story. Okay. And this pathway, it's difficult to say.
Footpath.
There's a sign up there that says footpath.
Oh, yeah, I think I've seen
This is a decking area, where
I
it's,
think I've seen this in the video.
yeah. And this, as you can see, is the marshes. So we're actually on wooden decking,
Yeah.
and we're suspended above water, basically. Yeah. So now we're walking along the decking, which runs parallel to the side of the fort, which had collapsed. I can see why they built the fort here. It's one of the few hilly parts of the coastline. It's very flat along here, but there's just one bulge in the landscape which they found when they first came here, and upon which they decided to build their fort.
It's a long path, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? Well, let's just stand here for a minute. We're facing out into the marshes. It looks like long grass. Basically, that's what reeds are.
Yeah.
And you can hear it, can't you?
Yeah.
That gentle rustling of the plants.
Quite a long way, isn't it?
Yeah, as they play gently in the breeze.
Yeah.
Okay, we just stand here for a minute or so.
God, how far does that go on there?
Oh, it goes on for a few miles.
Oh,
We're not going to go too far though.
no,
This
we've
is
got
a.
to go back 'cause
this is-
we left Eddie. Didn't we?
Oh, Eddie's all right. He's just wandering around doing his thing. So hopefully he's picked up something interesting. There's a light in the background, which I think is a reflection of the moon, but looks kind of ominous when you look at it. Let's zoom in a bit. Yeah, that's the moon. Well, I hope it is. Yeah, I think that's the moon. And bring it back into focus again. There's no wind now. It's perfectly still.
I wonder what's out there. What's in the reeds?
Okay, let's go back. We could go on. We could walk the whole night along here, Pat.
Oh my God, I can't believe how long it is.
Oh yeah.
I did see someone. I put a video on walking along this, but I didn't know it went on for miles.
Oh yeah, it goes on for quite some distance.
We're back to the port.
Oh, there's a strange smell then.
Yeah, it's the marshes, isn't it?
No, it was a different smell. It was something I haven't smelt before.
Oh,
Not a very clean smell either.
not a clean smell.
No, quite a foul smell.
Oh, look at some flowers.
Okay, we're actually walking back on the gravel path. We've got off the decking area, and we're now going back up a slope towards where we are based with Eddie. Where's Eddie?
Hey, how's it going?
Hi Eddie, how have you got on? We've been for a walk along the decking at the marsh end, the Halvergate marsh end. We walked for about 100 yards, or I think you said about 6 miles.
Felt like that. I've been bitten.
Can't say whether we picked anything up on camera because we won't know till we review it. But there was a strange, odd smell, a kind of negative smell walking up the slope, coming back.
When
up,
you say negative smell,
foul smell.
hey?
Yeah, very brief.
What?
Well, poo.
Oh,
Was
poo.
it?
Well, a rotten smell.
Did you get poo?
Not poo in the pure sense, but a rotten smell.
Just smelled sort of greens, you know, like,
But it was really spooky on the marshes, wasn't it?
yeah, it's quite spooky there.
What about yourself?
Basically, not a lot. I've just been walking around, and basically, the only area I can say really had picked stuff up, but that's momentarily, and that's this corner here. So it looks to me as though it's the.
Well, that's where that's where the castle was.
Yep.
As I was saying earlier. Well, let's have a wander over with the cameras because I did say we'd go to the castle. Right, this is the castle slope here. We're actually on it's like a slight ramp.
This is the area where I was picking it up.
You talk for a minute. I just want to try and highlight it.
We've got a torch here.
What's that?
No idea.
Is it a bottle?
Yeah, it's heavy, whatever it is.
Oh, it's a sun cream bottle.
That's one of the girls left that.
Yeah, I guess it's those people that were here earlier.
Sun cream.
Okay, now as you can see, we're rising up a gentle slope. This is the site of the medieval castle. There's another bottle here, look. Almost full, look.
I would say probably our wonderful cockchafers scared them all off and
They fled in terror.
they fled. Yep.
Okay, for those of you at home, we're actually standing on the site of the medieval castle here. We're on the medieval castle site. So let's see if we can get anything on the camera. Over there's the castle walls. We come here in love, light and peace. We mean you no harm or disrespect. We just wish to make friendly. I'm picking up something. I can fit it here. We mean you no harm or disrespect. But we wondered whether or not you wish to communicate. Despite my initial observations, a long session here did not reveal any activity to share. That, unfortunately, is the manner of hauntings and the paranormal. We're going to end this session. For my part, I found it interesting. It's not been a full-on in-your-face paranormal investigation where you're seeing things and experiencing like we do at the castle at Baconsthorpe. And we're going back to Baconsthorpe maybe in July or August. Baconsthorpe is an amazing place.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's
What is it?
It's a castle.
Oh, the castle. Lovely.
And we actually work inside the castle tower.
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
So Baconsthorpe Castle is certainly coming up on the agenda, but before then I have other investigations and documentaries to produce. So I'm not sure in which order these things will occur, but they will happen this year, and hopefully before we have any more lockdown. So I need to get these things addressed very quickly. But for tonight's investigation, I thoroughly enjoyed being here. It's been great. It's been great with Eddie's company. Put it here, man. And Pat.
Thank you, it's been great. Thank you for taking us here.
Pat's had a bit of a cough earlier when you were
Yeah,
on
I
the...
did. I had a cough.
When we went
stop
live on
hay fever.
Facebook,
That was a
Pat
hay
was struck
fever.
down by a terrible cough.
I know. Okay.
But for tonight, this is the end of this wonderful investigation, and I really thank you for joining us. It's been great having you with us. It's been great for you to wander around with us as we walked around the fort itself, as we walked down to the marshes. And where have you been?
I've been the whole way round.
And Eddie's been all the way around too.
Round the whole way
and you
round.
will see some of that too. So it's been a very special investigation. Now I'm looking forward to a 3-hour drive to get back to my home. And God knows what time it is. It must be about midnight, I suspect, by now.
Don't know. Can't see the light.
So it's very, very late. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. And I look forward again to seeing you again in the very near future. Thank you. And good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night from me, and stay corona free unless it's alcohol.
Good night.